I've been down to the river just to see the fish swim by. I've been down to the river just to see the fish swim by. I've been down to the river so lonesome I could cry. Oh, gal, gone, I wish that I could go too. Gal, gone, all I do, I feel so blue.
When you meet somebody on the street and they ask you, what do you do? How do you describe that? Because you've done a lot of things in your life, but what would you say is at the core of who you are?
I would say I'm a carpenter, a boat builder, and a house builder. Then if a person is persistent and troublesome or whatever, then they will say, what do you mean? What does a carpenter and a boat builder do? And what he does is take a deep breath and jump in. That's what he does. Well, and still that it doesn't answer very well because what do you do? Well, suppose this now. It's a conversation, and they have said, oh, you say you build a boat. How you build a boat? And I tell them, I'll build a boat for you. Where is your boat going to go? And they tell me how deep is the place they can moor it, how heavy is the sea it's going to have to meet. I will ask them, what is inside of the boat? If it, that kind of question, does it have to have a crew? Well, do they have to stay aboard 6 months, or can they get away with 6 hours? Those questions are very much to the point if you're going to make a boat for those people, for that person. So, okay, we're getting complicated, aren't we? But all those things are coming up. We're building boats. The man has asked me, and what governs your activity? What governs your activity is harmony, after all. I talk details. What determines your activity is it lovely? Does it fulfill what you might mean by harmony or grace? I mean, that'll do. Harmony and grace, that's a lot to that. This says it's a memory from 1940, so this is a I'm pretty young at this time. Last night I thought perhaps she isn't busy. I thought of her eyes, her throat, her lips laughing. 'Twas late, her father's house was sleeping, the air was still, but the moon cut wanton slashes. A sudden dimensional reality in the surrounding blackness. I stepped past the squeaky stair. Breath mustn't make a sound, nor beating heart. Her door already ajar. I rested. I leaned against the jamb of the door, held it with my 2 hands. I watched her sleep, drank at that fountain. Her sleep, that fountain. She, a curved gold in the elsewhere coldness of the moon. Yes, my trembling, my fever, yes, the thin cloth, the irresponsible moon touching each line and intersection of her body, her still shape. Her sleep was perfect, crystalline, whole as earth's fulfillment of time's grace, whole as the heaping beyond limit of any lust. Her quiet shoulders breathing in the breathing room. Everything was alive and quiet, too. It would be treason to shatter such a sleep, treason to butcher such a moment. I left her so. Came hungry for the taste of her, came away. Were ever arms as empty as these two? Now that says it was at daybreak that I was making these observations. Now here is sunset. Now we've had a whole day to let that settle back. And she, good God Almighty, her fury is like a nest of bees, or a bird that dives and drives a cat with beak and claw and slash. And just for that one thing that I watched her sleep last night, I looked on her, I braved the dangers of her sleeping house, but didn't seize her, didn't bite, destroy, plow up the virgin countryside of her delight. Oh, she is so angry. I didn't plunge her in her blood's flame surf. I did not consume. She is set against her own beauty as an antagonist, her will's at war with the harmony of her own grace and presence. If ever this hand restrains itself again, God help me. She swears she'll find someone who seizes and consumes more greedily. So that's about a nest of bees that I met. I suppose I was who can say? This was guessing 1940, well, whatever. I have to do the arithmetic. And, you know, I'm like King Lear now. What does it say with King Lear? I think very good line. I fear my wits are not altogether what they once were. That's what I think that's the very valuable line in the play King Lear.
3 or 4?
Oh, no, come on. 44? No, come on. 40. 40. Come on. 20, 30, 40, 10. I was 13. Yeah, 13. No. This is the time I apprenticed myself to Ralph Mann. Because I saw my father had been a poet, and what good did that do him? Well, but Ralph Mann was a black man, and he was from Yonkers. His mother was born in slavery in Virginia. And there was Ralph, and he was a good boat builder and house builder. And, of course, being a black man, he was a janitor, because that's what we do in New York, Westchester County, with gifted black men. They turned into janitors. Oh, all right. And so I went to Ralph, and I said, and I was 13. That's the time 13. Of that. You're that's right. 13. And it's the same time that Ralph was teaching me my life's work, that this girl, her name was Naomi. Oh, well. Hey. Go away in the springtime. Come back in the fall. Bring me back more money than the both of us can haul. Than the both of us can haul. That's a Chin Gang song. What? How could that be a Chin Gang song? Go away from my window. Go away from my door. Go away from my bedside. Don't you bother me no more. Go away in the spring. Come back in the fall. Bring back more money and both of us can haul. I know how that is that a love song turns into a chain gang song or a work song. Come on, let's let the chain gang rest, and it's called a work song. That's it. When I was, I started work. I was working in a steel mill, helped organize the United Steel Workers of America CIO before the AFL got tangled up in it. I got a scholarship, unaccountably. I got a scholarship to go to college, and I went south. And so then, got down to Alexandria, Virginia, along in there, and was hitchhiking. And I got a ride with a Mayflower van. The Justice was the driver. And he posed the question, what is it that makes a woman beautiful? And I wrote it all down that we had to say. I was a man, 16 years old, traveling south. I got a ride on a Mayflower van. Justice, the driver from Charlotte, North Carolina, he said, what is it makes a woman go to your heart? What is it about her that draws you to her? I was a man, 16, traveling south. I said, beautiful, you mean? What makes her beautiful? Yeah. He passed the whiskey. Don't take but just a little nip every 2 hours, Bo. No more. It was a strong, steady driver, exact, courteous, and safe. And my first taste of whiskey. We used a Coke chaser. Go light on them hot dogs. They make you sleepy. It's a long way, Baltimore to Rocky Mount. He had to yell over the racket. The girls I had known by then had desired, hoped for, feared, delighted in. One I had slept with all night. None had I tasted. None would I have called woman. I said, no. How can a person, you or me, think of her, except all at once? Her body, her breath on your face, her voice, it's all at once, isn't it? He said, what about her knees, Bo, huh? For an instance, with the skirts spinning past? The truck roared on into high, hot noonday. I said, no. But there's the whole line of her movement past green leaves. Green leaves, he says. You're right. And I was forgetting. He passed me the bottle. We each took a nip. 2 days and a night we worked that truck with no drop of sleep. Unloaded furniture, loaded up empty steel drums, unloaded again. 1944, the speed limit then 45. Wartime, Justice had bad teeth, was the age of my mother. I was a man, 16 years old, traveling south. He said, maybe it's how she springs up on you. You come home and she hangs on your neck, crouched against your bosom, like as though it was you an apple tree or a pine tree or something. She could climb up there and look out at the world. Oh, such a good behavior, says I. Yeah, it's the second daybreak. We still have a third of his bottle, but we ain't got it yet. Mid-morning, and I tried it again, me a man of 16. Traveling south. It's the slim kind of bones of her hands and her ribs, you know? And think of her head, huh? Yeah, Bo. That turns like a bird as she speaks. And the smell of her like cherry wine. Justice, you were such a fine driver. No coarseness, no vengeance against other drivers. 2 days and a night I was with you, me. A man of 16 in my first taste of whiskey. There was never a woman we passed in all our journey but what we took notice of her. The second sundown, I jabbed him. Hey, for there she was, standing on the bluff, her quiet shoulders at the height of our windshield, her face turned upon us. Just at the moment that ours turned to her, Justice said, now. Her secret, it's out. We got it, Bo. Look at there. It's her eyes. I think I mentioned that we were in jail in Anniston, Alabama. Well, but what was going on was that I was courting a girl then, and her name Dubose. Kind of, what do you do when you're courting a girl? Among other things, you do some pretty stupid things, namely you're all the time strutting your stuff, you peacock feathers and all that, doing the best you can anyway of that. Well, and so I said, I am going to go swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. And it was the middle of the semester, spring break, I suppose, long in there. I am going swimming in the Gulf of Mexico, and all those other poor mountaineer boys hung up around Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They weren't going swimming in the Gulf of Mexico, but I was. Oh, all right, give it a try. End up in jail. Okay, in Anniston, Alabama. Very hospital, a very nice jailhouse, a lot of fleas. But okay, come on, you can't have everything. Well, really, the chief of police said, just a couple of college boys full of piss and vinegar. Go on, you just take this much of your money and buy a ticket back to Chapel Hill and get out of here. And he wouldn't do anything. He wouldn't even let us be on the gang. Not that we were hungering for that. Good, I get out of jail. Isn't that good? And I write a postcard. Oh, yes, to the Bowes. And it goes to her house, and her mother picks it up. And what does it say? It says, oh, it feels so good to get out of jail. And it's the first line she ever saw anything about me. It's so good to get out of jail. I get back to come back from swimming in the Gulf of Mexico and all that. And then here I am coming to her house, knock on the door, yes, good. And they're so nice. She, her mother and her father and the whole family. They greet me there and put me upstairs in the upstairs bedroom, just knocking off that night. And here comes an angel, kiss me goodnight. Oh, dear. Isn't the world a wonderful place? In the morning, coming down the stairs, here's the drawing room, and it's got 3 doors. Okay, I come in through the door that came down from upstairs, and she comes in from the door from the sun parlor, and she jumps on my shoulder. It's the first time she ever did it. That was her greeting, her way of saying hello. Jumps on my shoulder. But the 3rd door, who comes in? Her mother. Oh, dear. She's a nice lady, very tolerant and generous and all that. But nonetheless, she couldn't approve of this behavior. She says, Francis, you get down from there. Oh, dear. So that's the first time she ever greeted me in that jumping on my shoulder like a squirrel. And I kept on going just that way. I'd come home and from work after we were building a bum plant, and we were building it, and come home in the evening, and she'd jump up on my shoulder. Hello. Oh, and all those children, they'd be swirling around, hello, hello. And she'd jump up on my shoulder, just like a squirrel. And so that squirrel went on there that way. After a while, we got a fellowship to study Slavic and East European languages. And then we were in another setting in college in Bloomington, Indiana. And at that time, they had 2 prominent gangs that did poetry. Ours was a secret gang where the telephone would ring. We had a telephone, and they kind of whisper, and you'd know when there would be a meeting, and you could come if you wanted. That was one group. And the other group was all the academic, certified academically poets who had a name already and a professorship or something. And so that competition is, works. Okay, so we were all time wondering about good ways of attacking the beast of poetry. How do you do good poetry? And in responding to that need that we were involved in our outlaw poetry group, the business of question and answer comes up. It's it's pretty good. And so I started hammering on the bows, and we're going across the street, and people zoom, zoom, zoom. It's about 10 o'clock at night. So I asked her, but it kind of hammered on her. I said, Bose, what's the opposite of salt? See, and it's like playing baseball to a person who had left their mitt at home. I mean, that was mean. But I did anyway. I said, Bose, hey, tell me. I asked her, what's the opposite of salt? And she said, she wouldn't be sidetracked. No. She wouldn't be overcome. No. Hard-headed. She says, the opposite of salt is a silver bell. Anytime you know you're making wages, there is always this thing of beauty, the silver bell of beauty, the silver bell that's drawing you on. Well, okay, she won that exchange. Well, according to my measure. What's the opposite of salt? The opposite of salt, she says, is a silver bell. Okay, try again. Well, what's the opposite of a squirrel? And boy, that was very personal with us. What's the opposite of you? Who are you and what are you doing here? See, I mean, that's mean. Somebody's supposed to say, anybody, any of us here. Well, and you're telling me the same thing. Who are you and what are you? Oh, my Lord, I better run. Okay, well, when I tell her, what's the opposite of a squirrel? Well, man, that was mean. And she says, the opposite of a squirrel is a burned brick. Well, she hit me hard. I think that was pretty good. Anyway, the opposite of a squirrel is a burned brick. Now I mean, that you can hear it. All the burnt outness that she's accusing me of. Okay, well, then I asked her, what's the opposite of a woman? And she says, the opposite of a woman is ever after. I told you how many children we had made, and we nearly lost the bows one time in a miscarriage, and that was, and we lost our firstborn son, she squeaked through, but death is always, on an island here we call him Old Bud, and Old Bud is always looking out to lead off any of our women folk, because that's the way it is with placental gestation and birth and all that. The person just has a certain amount of blood, and she's just like anybody else in that. The opposite of a woman is ever after. Down and die to die, bury me where she passes by. She turned my love right into grief. That's why I sing these lines this evening. When I lay down and die to die, bury me where she passes by. Some people sing that She turned my love into hate. No. A season and a day, and when that season's past and done, the fair young maid did say, what man is weeping on my grave, the night and most the day, the night and most the day. 'Tis I, my own true love, who can no longer sleep from want of a kiss from your ruby lips. The night and day I seek, night and day I seek. See there, the garden green, where often we did walk, the fairest flower that e'er was seen is withered at the stalk, is withered at the stalk. Our own hearts too, my love must die, and like the stalk decay. So all that you can do, my love, is wait your dying day, is wait your dying